do we live the covenant of love? If we say that the essence of the Sch movement is a covenant, is a pact between one person and the other, how do we live out this covenant of love with Mary, this covenant of love that brings us closer to the heart of God? And third, how do other people, we can say outsiders, look at us? How do others interpret how we live, how we talk about the things that are relevant to our life, how we interact with others, how we work, how we study, how we raise our families? What do others say about me? When we are able to reflect on these questions, then we continue to think about the Sch movement in a way in which I can say, the Sch movement is me. I take ownership of this gift that I have received, and then I present this gift as a way to show others that I am the person that the Blessed Mother invited to seal this covenant of love, and that now is a new person in Christ. Of course, the covenant of love doesn't happen in an isolated place. It doesn't happen just between me and the Blessed Mother. It is in the context of a family. It is in the context of many people that are connected to our lives. And that's why we have not only the Blessed Mother and Schoenstatt as a Marian spirituality for the Church, but this Marian spirituality is a part of a big, larger family. And that's why we are here today as well, as a family. I'm not just having a conversation, a one-on-one conversation with someone else, but we are together building the Schoenstatt family. We are together feeling that we are responsible for each of our sisters and brothers in the covenant. And that's why for some of us, we answer to the call to be leaders by taking the initiative to show others the gifts and the fruits of the covenant of love. And in that sense, we have to realize whatever I do to spread the covenant culture, to spread the covenant of love in my parish, at work, at school, is living out the calling to be apostles, missionaries for a new church, for a new evangelization. It is in the context of the family where we go out into the world. We don't do it alone. The first thing that that Jesus did before his public ministry was to gather the community of the 12. And then he went out to preach. Same thing happens with Father Kentenich, the father of the family. He brings everybody together. He invites the first Sodalists, the first boys, to come together to discover this mystery of the covenant, and then to form a family that is fruitful in its ministry. Of course, a family first. But this family doesn't just comes together wherever. This family also has a place. And that is the place that the shrine has in the center of the life of the family. The shrine is the place of grace. The shrine is the place that is at the center also of the covenant of love. The covenant of love is what makes the shrine a Schoenstatt shrine, because otherwise it can be any other chapel. But when you seal the covenant of love in the shrine, then that shrine, that chapel, becomes a Schoenstatt shrine. That's what happened with the original shrine. It was a chapel dedicated to St. Michael. And when the boys sealed their covenant of love with her, it became the Schoenstatt shrine. It became the place of grace that today we call home, that gives meaning to the life of our family. And so our mission is not only to talk and to live out the covenant of love, but our mission is also to be able to bring the shrine as a place of grace, as a place of pilgrimage to the whole church, to the whole Schoenstatt family, to the whole world. And so when we think again of this 100 years, we have to go back to the basics. We have to go back to our Marian spirituality. It is the Blessed Mother what gives a character and a flavor to the movement, a Marian flavor. This flavor, this originality of being a Marian movement is present within the context of a family, and the family are the members of the movement, are those that are called to live out the covenant of love in a new and original way, are those that are called to be leaders to bring the message of the covenant to the whole world and to the church. But this also happens in a physical place, in a place of grace, which is the shrine. Not every movement in the church has such a unique originality, a physical place of grace. And that's why our attachment to the shrine plays a key role in the understanding of the covenant of love and in the way that I live the covenant of love. And that's why the first time that the first daughter shrine came to be, it was because there was a need there. The first sisters in South America, in Uruguay, they realized we have a need. We have the need of that place of grace in which we seal a covenant of love with Mary, in which we come back to receive the graces and the graces of the shrine, and we need it here. We cannot live without it. And so the daughter shrine is not an invention of Father Kentenich. It comes from the life of the family. It is the result of the striving of those that want to be saints. And in order to be saints, we need the place of grace. We need the shrine. For us, especially in the Schoenstatt movement, to live out the covenant of love. So one of the fruits of this 100 years, of course, is the shrine and the daughter shrines as a gift of the life of the covenant of love. And I'm just mentioning one gift, because then the question is, what is going to be the gift for the next 100 years? And we can mention a whole list of items as gifts of the life of the covenant for these past 100 years. But we also want to think, and what about me now? How do I bring this new life, and how do I share those impulses, those initiatives, those longings and desires that are in the heart, and that sometimes I think it's too much for me. But it was not too much for those 15, 18 years old first Sodalists 100 years ago. If they did it, how much can each one of us do? Our Schoenstatt family is then a family that is rooted in a rich history of grace. When we think again, and I go back to the shrine, we think of the key element of the Schoenstatt spirituality together with the covenant, because the covenant happens in the shrine, that we offer as something new, is the newness of Schoenstatt with the church. And then we have to think of the history of the church, and we have to think of the logic of God. For every new religious family, God generates an original way to give of herself to enrich the life of the church and to change the course of history. Of course, we think again of the first religious families of the church that left an imprint in the life of the church. And we have to think of the Benedictines, for instance. And the Benedictines, with the gift of prayer, of spiritual life, of bringing order to the day, of also integrating work into the prayer life, ora et labora, work and pray, the rule of Saint Benedict. But it happened in a place. It happened in the monastery. And the monastery became the place of grace for so many saints, in the life of the church. And in those monasteries, culture was made. We continue in the life of the church, in the history, and we can look at so many other religious families that have left an imprint in the life of the church. We think of the Franciscans, for instance, and the place of grace for them, the little chapel of the Porciuncula, and how the Franciscans brought a new movement of renewal to the church in the way of simplicity of life, in the way of being missionaries that went into the towns, preaching the gospel door to door, something totally new and revolutionary for their times. Then we continue and we can think of the Jesuits and the Counter-Reformation to give an answer exactly to the needs of those times, with formation, with education of the people. And today they are the largest organization in the church that has higher education and universities throughout the world. Only in America they have 28 universities. Is the largest private organization in the country that owns universities. What about the Schoenstatt movement? What impact are we making in the life of the church? How are we generating a new way of life, a new style to live out our faith that gives an answer to the challenges and to the new realities of society, of the family, of the human person today? What we try to do is to reflect and not just continue living as one more day after the other, but to reflect on what is happening in me. What is happening with my family? What is happening in my parish? What is happening at work? And what is the type of answer that I myself, with my witness and my testimonial, am able to do and to share? Because that is the life of the covenant. When we talked, and we started talking a couple of years ago, about the concept of covenant culture, what we are trying to say is, we have a gift, we have something that we believe that is unique and that is an answer for our times. We are not a religious family or a movement that started 500 years ago. But we are one of the newest movements and families of the church. And of course, as we get ourselves organized, because at times we don't even know where we go, as we get ourselves organized, then new life starts to go into different directions. And in that tension of trying to give order to that life, then new things starts to happen. One of those new things is, of course, the huge gift of the Schoenstatt Rosary Campaign. The Schoenstatt Rosary Campaign as an instrument of new evangelization. The Schoenstatt Rosary Campaign as a tool of the Blessed Mother to reach out to the hearts and to the homes of so many people, Catholics and non-Catholics. I even met a couple that was not, they were not even Christians, and they were receiving the Blessed Mother in Washington, D.C. So the Blessed Mother as a tool of new evangelization that comes not from the structure of the Schoenstatt movement, but from the life of a holy person, Deacon John Possebon. And just as we talked about the first Sodalist and then we continued in the history of Schoenstatt, we want to mention in this Delegate Convention all the people, all the Schoenstatt heroes that were able to live in a heroic way the covenant of love. John Possebon is one of those heroes of Schoenstatt. And with his life, he was able to generate a life stream that today, I ask myself, and maybe Sister Cornelia knows, because she knows everything. I ask myself, is the Schoenstatt Rosary Campaign larger than the Schoenstatt movement?
Actually, I think it is.
I think it is too. You know, she had the answer. I knew who to ask.
It is larger.
Yes.
I think.
And it's the fruit of the covenant of love. It is the fruit of a life of a person that was captured by Mary